Welcome to Adelaide in South Australia. This is the second of 3 videos with Chris Iliff, a former UK Chief Inspector who has moved to South Australia Police, or SAPOL, as a probationary constable. So starting right at the bottom again, having risen to the rank of Chief Inspector. Chris, very good to have your company here in Adelaide. Let's start. Just tell us where we are specifically here in Adelaide. Just give us a little bit of a...
No problem. So to sort of ground it for London people, this is kind of our equivalent of Parliament Square to a degree, I guess. If you look over that direction there, this is the fabulous Adelaide Oval, which both you and I think are frequenting tonight when the Lions come and play. And we move around to the Festival Plaza here, which has been newly done up and renovated to be the backdrop to Parliament House behind that, and then just looking across the far side, and the fantastic tram system and public system, transport system in this city. You've got Government House as well, just behind the trees over to my right.
Now, you landed here with your family, your wife and 2 children, on New Year's Eve, so just around 6 months ago.
Yep.
We've talked about the situation, your circumstances back in the UK. Tell us about what happened once you landed, what it was like being welcomed by SAPOL as an organisation and your colleagues, what it's been like in those first 6-7 months or so.
No problem at all. So I have to say, first and foremost, SAPOL have been incredibly welcoming, pretty much from the moment we arrived, and actually extending long before that as well. The transition team took us by the hand all the way through. They were at the drop of an email, normally replying within 48 hours. They were really clever actually in making sure that they took heed of the time difference between the two, and were constantly in touch all the way through. Some things out of their control. There was some delays with visas for some people. I was quite lucky, but things out of their control. They were reassuring, they were comforting all the way through. We landed here. Fortunately, we've been sort of partnered up with a kind of a buddy, and I was lucky to have a friend of a friend who was that buddy as well, who'd already sort of set out our rental house. We managed to get a rental before we even arrived, and they'd fitted it out for us with inflatable beds and, you know, teas and coffees for us when we arrived, and so on and so forth. And as it was New Year's Eve, the first thing we did was run down the beach and watch the fireworks go up, which was yeah, it was incredible really, just looking over the bay for the first time and seeing what we'd landed to. It was really good. And you know, everyone loves Facebook these days. I guess if you look at my feeds around then, and even to this day, every now and again I have to pinch myself and remind myself I'm not on holiday. This is where I live now. This is my life out here, and it is really a privilege for that to be in place. From there, we sort of had to do the kind of admin things that everyone has to do when they move country, I guess. So we were really keen to be on this intake, in the January intake, because the school year starts in January out here, and it's really, really important to us that our kids were given the best opportunity to hit the ground running and get into school at the start of the school year. So it's getting them into schools, making sure they had the uniforms. My son in particular goes to private school, which we could never have afforded to do in the UK, but we can out here. My daughter chose, because of her own interests, to go to one of the public schools, which has been sort of fantastic in supporting her as well and her needs since we've been here. And my wife started work before I did. She was pretty much straight into a job that she had arranged before she even arrived out here. From there, it was off to the academy. By the end of January, I had about 20 days to get myself ready and get myself set. We were welcomed with a barbecue from the host team on Glenelg, which is a fantastic beach area in Adelaide. It's kind of the young quarter, I guess. Probably not somewhere I'd frequent these days, but certainly if you're looking for bubbling pubs and clubs and all the rest of it, that's the place to go for that. So yeah, free barbecue put on by the course to welcome us and make sure we knew the places that we needed to know. The academy was 3 months in the purpose-built facility they've got here, which was a fantastic sort of environment really to learn in. It had great classrooms. They've got kind of a purpose-built mini village that I know sort of the UK will be kind of familiar with, but this is brand new, really kind of bespoke to what they need. The trainers are really supportive as well. We were aware that you know, probationary constables out here are treated with a high level of discipline, which is something that's probably changed in the UK. For better, for worse, I'll leave that probably for the viewer to decide. But we were dealt with a lot of respect for our previous service from the UK. We were allowed probably some freedoms that is given to probationary constables a little bit later in their service from day one, and we were made to feel really sort of welcome and respected for our previous service by the team that sort of got us up to speed really with the way it works out here. And then from there, that was it. I finished on a Friday and was on a night duty on the Saturday. It was a very whirlwind move from the academy into the real life of policing, and a massive, I don't want to say step back to the streets for me, because I've loved every minute of it. I always loved the streets in the UK. You know, I've always missed the responsible policing, the diversity of job, the buzz of running around and not knowing what you're going to go to next. So I hit my team. They've been amazing. They've accepted me with open arms. I get as many stories or requested stories about what it's like back in the UK as I ask them about how do I do my job out here. And they've just been amazing, really. I just felt like one of the team from day one. It's been great.
Let me come back to family, because in first video talking about your decision, your family decision to move out here, you pretty much rated family decision as the key factor in deciding whether to make the move or not. So you have, I believe, 2 children who are roughly 12, 13, 14, that sort of age. You wouldn't be here, you were telling me, unless they were fully supportive of the move. Your wife also. Just expand a little more on the highs and lows for them of what you understand to be those highs and lows for them of the move over here.
Yeah, I mean, the lows have been few and far between, to be perfectly honest. I mean, they're modern kids. My boy lives on his Xbox like most boys these days, so he's actually got 2 lives now, depending on the time zone. He's got all of his friends back in the UK who he used to speak to through his Xbox, that he still speaks to through his Xbox and plays games with them every single day. And now he's got a whole band of Australian friends from his cricket playing and so on and so forth, that again he sort of commutes and talks with and goes out with and all the rest of it every single day as well. So he's probably landed on his feet. My daughter told the teachers, I think the day we made the decision, when we were trying to keep it quite private, that we were looking at going to Australia, and you know, hasn't really looked back from there particularly. I think she probably had a very slight wobble the day she arrived, because she had a little bit longer before she was into any clubs and schools and stuff, so she was talking a lot more back to her UK friends, and didn't really have that kind of immediate separation that the rest of us had, that sort of clean break. That pretty much from the day she arrived at school, she made new friends, and saying she dropped her English friends is the wrong term, but very quickly the calls from her to her UK friends were very quickly swapped to the Australian friends, and now it's all stories back to her UK friends about how it's going out here.
And your wife as well?
Yeah, my wife, as I say, she had a job before she even arrived here, same as me, very easy for her to get work as a social worker, and she has since then, because she came on a sort of temporary contract with them, found a permanent job that she's now moved to and is very happy there. She's been really welcomed. Social work over here is another fantastic trade to be in, to come out to, and it's set her up really well.
And what about friends, and particularly family back in the UK?
Yeah, so I'm quite lucky that my family in particular have already moved away from England. They've gone off to Spain and live out there now. Helen's family, again, we were close to, but most of it was sort of transactional on phones and texts and all the rest of it, rather than you know, having that kind of historic parents down the street type relationship. They were a little bit further away, so we still spoke and communicated regularly, but we're still doing that level of communication now. We haven't really lost that level of engagement since we've been out here.
And then, so you've referred already to the welcome that you've had from your now SAPOL colleagues here. The transition appears to have gone pretty smoothly, but whilst there will be similarities in policing between UK, Australia and specifically SAPOL, there will be some differences as well, not least, for example, in whether or not police officers, police members are armed or not. Yeah,
I mean, that's a big decision for people, and we noticed it at the academy. As I said in the first video, a lot of my career has been armed cop. I've had a gun on my hip pretty much for as long as I can remember, but it was noticeable in some of the scenarios for the unarmed colleagues who were diving straight into scenarios and doing what we would traditionally do in the UK by going hands-on sort of very early and getting control of people. Over here, the mindset of having a gun to protect, and the idea that someone might grab for the gun and turn something that was an unarmed incident into an armed incident by doing so, is something that they've probably had to get their heads around a little bit more than perhaps I have. I've kind of been fortunate with my policing career in the UK that's been less of a hurdle for me, I guess.
And any other significant differences, whether neutral, positive, or potentially challenging? Maybe in interaction with members of the public, are there any differences, or is it very similar?
I mean, I cannot possibly give you a better thing than say that South Australia has been so welcoming as a population. And I can only go back to 2 nights ago. I did an overtime duty actually on a roadside breath testing station, which, just for the UK, because I suppose we do it sometimes, but I could probably remember once in my entire career, is kind of a very regular occurrence out here. We corral off a section of the road, you have someone steers a load of cars in. We had 6 officers on the night, all with breathalyzers in hand, tube in someone's mouth, and off they went on their merry way. And I think I got through 40 breath tests in one sitting. Now, if I tell you that there wasn't one person who said, haven't you got anything better to do? Not a single one. And predominantly the reaction from the public was, thank you very much for what you do, we're really grateful. Bearing in mind, these are people trying to get home from work, to have that kind of positive reaction from the public. And that has been absolutely my experience on pretty much every stop I've had over here. Even sort of some of the criminal fraternity that obviously we're engaging with, they seem to respect the police still. They seem to do as they're told when they're told to do it, and react positively. Obviously that's not the case for everyone, but predominantly that's been the experience so far, is that the police over here are still very, very respected. Albeit, you know, if you've lived that for your whole life as a SAPOL cop, maybe you don't realise that, but as a UK cop coming over here, it is palpable how respected they are.
Fascinating hearing your experiences there, Chris. We're going to move on to a separate location in a moment for the 3rd video, looking forward to the future. Not just the Lions match later this evening, but looking a little further beyond that. But Chris, probationer Constable Chris Iliff, for the time being. I should actually say probationary Constable Chris Iliff here in SAPOL, and former Chief Inspector back in the UK in the Met. Chris, thank you very much for the moment.
Thank you.